Bye, 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 bye,
bye, bye, bye, bye.
Hello, Jody Raynsford. Hello, Bad Boy Running Do-Badders. How you doing?
Oh, hello, David Hellard. Hello, one and all. Are we in 2023 now?
Ooh, I think this is probably the Friday before New Year's Eve.
Friday before New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
Wow.
the final one. Depending on what we do for Christmas, because actually we might push it back and not do a Do-Badder when we just do a Christmas special from Brewdog where we got drunk and you know the sort.
You know how it works.
But to warn you, Do-Badders, we're missing a guest right now, so there's a chance they're going to pop in halfway through this, and this may never make it to the air, or it might be half an episode. But we thought we'd do a bad stuff just in case they don't actually appear.
We should do an episode where we just slate the person without saying their name, and then what Do-Badders have to do is guess who we're talking about.
This one, I think American guests would know it a lot more than UK. Because
basically, David says you don't know. You just don't know. Your running knowledge is poor. Parochial. You call yourself fans of ultra running. You parochial fuckers. You just haven't done your homework. That's what you're saying, is that?
But talking about knowledge, so exclusive, and nothing's been signed, and probably won't be signed because I'm not. But I'm probably going to be doing the pub quiz at Love Trails next year. I had a couple of drinks with Theo.
So was that the big news? You're going to... Wow. Well, I thought, something akin to, London Marathon taking over Brighton Marathon, Barclays or something like that. That's the big news of running. Wow. Well, I tell you what, if this is 2023 and that's the first big news of 2023, well, that looks like, there's going to be more to come. Wow.
Well,
okay. What does that mean? You're going to do the pub quiz.
So
what does that mean?
And that sounds probably more tame than it will be. So I spoke to Theo last night, and he's pretty much on board with a absolute mayhem style pub quiz with challenges, drinking competitions. I used to go to this thing called Underground Rebel Bingo that was incredible, where it would move around.
That? Go on, what part of London was that? Come on, that sounds...
I mean, it was towards the east, always. Of course.
It sounds like it was towards the east.
This was long enough ago that it didn't need to be east because the Middle East wasn't as expensive, so they could still be around kind of your Moorgates or your...
You can still feel like you're in London.
Yeah. You're still somewhere relatively... that wasn't complete shit.
Middle East.
But yeah, it's called Underground Revel Bingo, and it was bingo, except every single round they would have the most insane production values where you'd win incredible prizes, and the guy on stage was almost like you're in the Matrix. And he'd be bigging it up, and they'd just be going crazy, and they'd be dancing, and then
just because in bingo, what do you mean? Just for every number that's pulled, it's like huge fanfare around a single number being pulled, or is it when someone gets a line or whatever?
Every line or but there'd be things in between as well.
All right, okay.
So we're going to be trying to come up with the equivalent of "Don't forget your toothbrush" / I was going to say Noel's house party, maybe.
Oh, wow. You're going to dress as Mr. Blobby, are you?
Blobby. But Theo wants to make it the kind of event that people are almost at the end of it like, holy crap, what the hell was that? Where we'll be sending people out to do challenges. You've got to pick like a teammate to get to the end of the back of the tent. And when someone knows the answer, they've just got to gut it through the crowd as fast as they can to get to the stage. Or you have to we'll pit teams against each other to come forward to do a plank off with like a drink on their...
A what?
With like a beer on their back, and they have to commit how many points to it. And then, everyone's obviously going to be cheering on the teams. And so the idea is that we'll just create this massively interactive, pretty bonkers start to Love Trails. That's the concept behind it. So you heard it here first. You heard it here first. Whoop, 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 whoop. Whoop, 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 whoop. But
well, they've just lost a load of ticket sales.
But unrelated to that conversation, I've heard further updates on the London running scene.
Okay, is this actual news?
This is the best kind of bad boy running news where I've spoken to.
It's in. You've read the headline and that's it. The rest behind the paywall, so we don't really know what the.
This is all ill-informed rumor.
Oh yes, the best.
But I found it quite fascinating because it's about a couple of running crews in London, and it does actually bring into question the future of running crews. So
what was the point? Okay, so just let's get some context here. What was behind the rise of running crews in the first place?
I think running crews was just the rise of cool running, the rise of individuals, the rise of Instagram. And so suddenly people didn't necessarily want to join a running club to necessarily just train for a marathon PB. Yeah. And so, but people wanted alternatives to those clubs. And because of Instagram and maybe Facebook, a bit of both, it fueled that. So instead of it being one person would invite 10 friends round or 5 mates round and they go for a local jog, or the local sweatshop would do a running club and you go and join them. Actually, suddenly people could start a movement, a mini movement, running movement, and that became a running tribe.
Yeah.
So the first one in London, I'd say, was probably Rundem Crew's first big one that I can think of. And then you've got, London City Runners, you've got Midnight Runners. I mean, there's hundreds of them. There's London Trail Runners, there's Black Trail Runners, there's Emancipation Crew. There's probably more than anyone knows because it could be just 2 people that turn up. But that's been happening for a number of years. And now we're almost at the stage where there's the teething problems, because what we know about running clubs is they are under England Athletics typically, which means they have to be voted for. All money has to be spent within. They have to have structural roles that follow certain procedures. And that means
I'll sum it up: a load of bullshit. That's what you mean.
Yes and no. But then actually, this that governance is where the issues are now coming in, because a lot of running clubs have been going for years and probably driven by a really passionate founder or a passionate coach, passionate club captain, chairman.
Never been about money. I mean, that's the thing about running clubs, isn't it? It's never driven by commercial things. Whereas I take it that this is where,
and it could be driven by like desire to win. Is one of the things, or to community, but I think now the running crews are more driven by cachet. It's that, and Midnight
cachet
Runners,
or cash, eh?
Cash, eh? I like it. And so when there are arguments at running clubs, and there always are, because when there are people and people care about something, inevitably there are conflicts. Then you've got the governments in place and people get voted out. There are fallouts. You see, for example, City Hash exists because there was an argument within London Hash, and City Hash is the breakaway hash.
Yeah.
And most runners from City Hash don't know that, because now City Hash are bigger, the younger, kind of more energetic hash. But actually, to start with, from my understanding, they were the dickheads who left London Hash. Right. And so within an older generation, people didn't like London Hash because of what it signified.
Right.
But these run crews now are getting to the point where suddenly the people that founded them are significantly older. And what happens when you get older? You have kids, you get busy, you leave town.
Yeah.
And so
leave town.
You leave, but you move.
Well, that's true, though, isn't it? I suppose. I mean, like, the thing is, if you ground something in London, it's perfectly true that, you know, when you have a family and stuff like that, people move out. And yeah.
And even if you don't leave London, you probably go from being in a shared 3-bedroom, 4-5-bedroom house to a flat in a bit more green area.
Your social footprint massively reduces as well. Whereas, you know, you're prepared to travel all over London for stuff. You probably then end up, you know, not even going more than a couple of miles from where you live when you've got the kids and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
You almost make your friends at uni 20s, early 30s, and then the friendship group gets smaller
you
and
don't
smaller.
make any friends after that point.
Pretty much.
The ones you do are other parents who you have nothing in common with, apart from the fact that you just happen to have
they've got
to conceive your children at the same time. That's it.
Yeah. So what then happens to these groups? So London City Runners. So we know London City Runners had a fallout with the club and the social side. Tim's spoken about that on the podcast in the past.
Yep.
And there's still a divide there. But Midnight Runners had a big falling out in London.
Did they?
And it almost caused and this is where rumor, word of mouth, almost caused
allegedly caused.
They definitely had a falling out, but they almost caused the collapse of them globally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the leadership, and we've spoken to Jody Bragger in the past, who was one of the people who set it up.
Yep.
And but then there were other co-founders who were no longer involved in London City Runners on a day-to-day basis, or you're really involved in City Runners on a day-to-day basis. And so
Midnight Runners.
Sorry, gosh, we're not talking about Midnight Runners. Yeah. Sorry, apologies. So Midnight Runners. So what then happens when you have this organizational structure, which is sponsored by Adidas, that sponsorship was elapsing. So there needs to be new funding for the structure. So where does the funding come from? It comes from, they don't find a new sponsor, it's going to have to come from the members.
Yeah.
And so there were fundamental changes in the structure of those running clubs, but suddenly it's not being proposed as a way to survive by someone within your club. It's almost seen as being thrust upon you by someone who no longer really is involved in the community, but is I don't know whether they're making money from that or whether it's just a bad communication, but
there's resentment.
There's resentment, yeah, and there's a fallout. And from what I gather, what happened in London was the team captains and the structure of Midnight Runners is that they have team captains who are they organise the sessions. They're the people everyone looks up to, really, either socially or athletically or in trading wise, knowledge base. And so they had a bit of a falling out. So they said, right, we're leaving. And they took a huge amount of the group with them.
Right.
And renamed. Now, the trouble is, that's pretty devastating for some people, because that's your identity. That's your friendship group. You've made friends there. You might have had kids with someone there. You might have got married because of it. You've been to weddings of people who are Midnight Runners.
Yeah. And
some people might want to remain. And actually, it's almost like if your football team moves.
Yeah.
But you're properly involved as opposed to watching someone else.
It's like Wimbledon and MK Dons. Like, do you follow them or do you stay? Because by not moving, you're making a choice. By moving, you're making a choice. You're being forced to pick sides almost when you don't want to, because you just wanted the status quo. It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, these communities are their main community, their main friendship group, their main love, their main passion in life. So it's pretty brutal. And that then had repercussions where, from what I understood, there were then conversations with other leaders globally. And London is the flagship, the very first one. It's quite a connected community, and dominoes topple, right?
Oh, is it like the fall of Rome? When Rome was sacked, the all the other parts of the empire started to revolt. Is that what?
If you look at the Arab Spring, Spring exactly the same. As soon as people realised that you didn't have to just listen to the suppressive family that happened to be owning all the oil, things changed, and so it looked from what I was told that the whole empire could crumble. That's the bit that obviously complete conjecture, because I didn't speak to anyone else outside of London. But I could really see it.
But it makes sense that that's what could happen. That's what happened. That's kind of what happened with CrossFit. When CrossFit went kind of, the guy in charge of CrossFit started making like comments about Black Lives Matter. All of a sudden, all these communities just went, why are we still under like the CrossFit? We can just do our own thing. Like, it's almost as though we just all of a sudden they just kind of went, oh yeah, we've got a community here. We can do our thing. And
British Military Fitness had the same conflict when it moved to be Military Fit, no longer under Harry, but Bear Grylls' kind of company took it over, and a lot of the trainers just set up on their own. So Miller and Pete's and coach, their BMF class, I think, switched and just went solo, and they were like, well, this is the only class we do. Everyone here are the people we know. So you're with this guy, obviously. We're not. We've got no longer.
We don't have no brand loyalty. The loyalty is to the individual.
It's to people.
Yes, people. Absolutely, it's always people, isn't it? Absolutely.
But then apparently, Midnight Runners have now got a new sponsor, and because of that, and an awareness,
flashing the cash. They go, oh, we got cash to spend,
but also not awareness of. And this is the bit where I need to be more careful about how I word it. Awareness of the cause of the conflict. It seems as if one of the partners has stepped aside to allow for a reintegration, and so now it's all happy families again.
Oh, I see.
But I thought it was a really good example of, and who knows what will happen with Bad Boy Running Club when we die, or all these other crews which are formed around people who really owns a crew. And there is no governance that necessarily determines that in the same way, or it could be a company.
You're right. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I suppose with the England athletics thing, it separates the entity. I suppose it's like a company. It's like a company. A company can survive without the person that founded it, without the person that owns it, without because it's an entity in itself. And I suppose if you have that enshrined in the way that England athletics do, then it allows it not just to survive, but through changes and everything else, it gives it a structure to overcome these kind of arguments, discussions, and everything. And it puts something in place that makes it a little bit harder to just kind of split in the same way, because you don't get access to funds, and everything else. You've got to go through the process of registering with EA again, which should put on anyone who wants to start a running club. So I can totally see it. That's interesting.
And then I've also heard Running Crew. So Charlie Dark, I don't know why I've not got him on yet. We should get him on. He's a great guy. He's fascinating, really inspirational individual. He set up Running Crew. From other conversation I've had, I've heard that Charlie almost reached a point where he was such the face of Random Crew, it was almost overwhelming.
Yeah,
because 10 years or it could have been longer of almost giving it. And I know Danny with Project Awesome was the same. Like you just can't keep giving forever.
Yeah.
For at some point it gets stale. At some point it doesn't seem right. And so over lockdown, Random Crew really reduced down massively because of the lack of ability for people to travel.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that it's now almost stripped away all the shells of those extra layers of people and days and different sessions. And Charlie's almost come back as this smaller Random Crew, which is more of the core values that it used to have, but also doesn't want to, just wants to stay small. Like is quite happy with that. That's the thing they started, is what they want to get back, which I thought was also quite interesting. So I wonder if this is happening globally. Are we, places in New York seeing similar things, or the big running hubs, Berlin? Does anyone know if there are other stories like this? Because you'd imagine in the future, this will inevitably happen, because people run collectively more frequently in crews when they're young, and people don't stay young. So there's the conflict.
Yeah. I always wondered what would happen if BBR was going to split in that way. I like the idea of them splitting in that way. I like the idea.
It's quite a do-badder thing to do, isn't it?
I'm disappointed that people haven't, actually. I'm disappointed that people haven't kind of split off and come up with their own kind of version of it. And I always think of the Warriors.
Good boy running.
I always think good boy running. Is that for dog owners? But
that's quite good name, actually.
It is, isn't it?
When they go running, Julius, why have you not taken that name? Ali, why have you not taken that name for when you go running with dogs? Good boy running. That's brilliant.
Who's a good boy running? Yeah, I always think of the Warriors, and like the film. Have you seen the film The Warriors?
Yeah, of course.
But I always think like that. All those kind of like weird, fucked up, like different crews and stuff that they have to like navigate through. And I thought, if I'd love there to be kind of like, what happens if the do-badders kind of split and there were all these like regional variations, or these variations, like you have like goth do-badders, or like do-badders in different parts of London, or West Country do-badders. Like what would they look like? What would they dress like? I had this idea that somehow if it did all split up, then everything would have a sheen of do-baddery around it, and you'd expect it to be kind of rebellious and everything, but also just a little bit kind of shit and parochial as well, like some element of that in it as well. I'd just be interested to see how that would play out. Are you thinking of splitting from BBR and setting up your own crew? What would you call yourselves? Exactly. I know. Well, like you were saying there about Charlie was like, he hit 10 years, and it was just like, don't want to do it anymore. Couldn't do it. Couldn't be the face of it anymore. We are approaching 8 years, of course.
And it's interesting because we interviewed Martin on Friday.
Yeah.
And actually, I really liked that interview. I thought it was great. And that was almost
a vision of our future.
Well, there was an element...
apart from the 12 million downloads,
apart from all the success.
Apart from all the success, yeah.
But some of the questions I was asking for the listener, because I thought they'd be interested. Some of them I was asking because I was genuinely interested around, the end, the transition, and I think you just do get busy as you get older as well. You take on more responsibilities and time pressure and various things. But now, have you seen, I can't remember the name of the documentary series, but I've been hearing other rumors as well, the new Marathon des Sables documentary?
No, I've not. What's that one? Where?
So it's been on Netflix for a while, but I've never watched it because I saw the trailer and I thought this looks absolutely donkey. Looks like a bad version of Losers. But it's an Idris Elba documentary to do with different sports.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm going to have to Google what it's called because I was aware of it a while back. But
Human Playground.
So the first episode, and this is more rumor, which I love. And I think this is drunken rumor because I think I remember who told me. I think they told me at the Brewdog session. So she knows who she is. And I think the do-badders who listen to the podcast will probably figure out who it is as well. But so first episode is following a runner with only one leg. And it's about, will she be able to finish the MDS?
Right.
That's the narrative for the whole documentary.
I would tell you what, she is... I didn't think it would happen, but she's got one up on Anya.
She's got a documentary? Or as in she's got... Has Anya got no legs?
Well, Anya did it with TB.
True. But
missing a limb, is that harder?
I think it's harder if you're missing a limb if you start with 2 limbs.
Yes.
But I'd argue that if you knew you were going in with 1 limb, TV is probably harder. Yeah. I mean, that's how. But this is the story as I've heard. And do better. Please correct me if you've heard otherwise. The documentary is about, will she finish it? She doesn't finish it. Now, there's issues behind.
Is that a spoiler? Have you just given a spoiler?
I've not seen it yet, so I don't know if that's true. Could be wrong. Could be a spoiler. The beauty of it, though, is that because it's a wanky documentary series, she's actually run it before and finished it.
Oh.
Yeah. So the real story is she's going back to do the MDS again.
Right.
But this time she's managed to get a documentary series. I don't know which was first. She went to them or they went to her. So she's not allowed to say that it's her second attempt and that she's done it before. So they're filming it as if like, oh, this is my first attempt. But then as soon as she fails, she obviously wants everyone to know, I've done it before. Like, I can finish this.
Oh,
I'm not rubbish. But obviously they don't want her to say that because it undermines the whole documentary. And so now there's this whole conflict where you've been lying, or you've been not lying. I mean, lying. I guess white lying all along, but now your ego is crushed,
taken over. Yeah, that's it.
By being seen as someone who's been unsuccessful in the documentary, when you've only got into it thinking, especially, I think once you've done the MDS once, you almost think second time, a piece of cake, and there's a chance you undercook it because you forget how hard you actually trained to make it manageable the first time. Yeah. So I just love that when people, it reminds me of Shirley Ghostman, where Shirley Ghostman's a fake psychic interviewing a skeptic who's then he's like, oh, so we've never met before, have we? No, we haven't met before. I know stuff about you. Your name, you have a cat, don't you? Yes, I do have a cat. The cat's called Jasper. No, not my cat's not called Jasper. My cat's called Rosie. And then something happens, and like, we've got to start again. Sorry. Oh, we've never met before, have we? No, you've got a cat called Rosie. Yeah, but I just told her, no, we've never met before, though, have we? And, kind of reminds me about that along those lines, where you get trapped in the narrative that you're wanting to tell, and then suddenly it works against you.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's good. That's good. I love that. Just like right to the Oh yeah, but I've done it before. Like. It's like I know, but because that can never benefit you.
No,
that can never benefit you, can it?
It absolutely makes it look worse. But the context in which I was told these stories were that actually it was quite frustrating for the others involved, because suddenly, and I've heard exactly the same thing with some friends who went to the Afghanistan marathon, and there was someone filming there, that when you've got a film crew filming someone, they almost have no respect that other people are there to race and have paid money and actually are equally important in this race as the person you're filming.
Yeah.
But I don't think that ever happens when film crews are involved, because suddenly it's the will of like 7 people against the will of 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
no, exactly.
But do better. Did anyone know that? Is what I've said true, or have I just made them?
I like that you put it out. I've made a load of comments, not entirely sure whether they're true. Do you think they're true? That's like an Elon Musk style poll, isn't it?
Does that surprise you? Does that if you've watched it, does that ring true? Also, I want to, talking about BMF, Be More Fit, I want to plug a friend's company, if that's all right.
Depends who your friend is.
Have you met Bonnie? I think you have.
Yeah.
Sometime. Yeah, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Lovely Bonnie. So Bonnie was the head of marketing for British Fitness. Great friend through the obstacle racing, and supporter of the podcast in that respect. And she's actually started a new company. I thought people would like it because I tried it and I thought it was really good. She's got a new drink called Zag. And the idea behind it is, and I'm just to clarify, we don't make any kickback from this. There's no commercial interest.
We don't make kickback for anything.
We don't. I'm doing it purely because she's a buddy, and I genuinely thought Do Betters would like it. So,
well, what is it? What is it? Go on, explain.
So the concept behind it was, at the moment, if you want to go drinking and you don't want an alcoholic drink, then you can get non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah.
But if you're not a beer drinker, your alternatives are really very heavy calorie or very fruit-based drinks. And realistically, you can't drink that many of them. But even if you wanted to drink that many of them, you probably wouldn't want to, because you're just piling on a huge amount of sugar.
Yeah.
So she's come up with a really nice drink called Zag, Z-A-G. I've not asked her the concept behind it. I assume it's like zigzag, is like an alternative route. And it's, I've tried one flavor of it, which was very different to what I was expecting, but really nice. It was kind of kombucha with mint and what were the other flavors? Trying to remember now. But actually it was green tea, lemon, lime, mint. And it was only about, I think it's 40 calories for the whole bottle. So it's just a really nice thing to have if you're not wanting to drink too much. So you can use the coupon code. Where's it gone now? BBR15. BBR15 on checkout and get 15% off. So go to Zag, Z-A-G, and type in BBR15 for 15% off. I've got myself a crate of them, and yeah, they're really good post run actually, because they taste quite light and still tasty for when you're just thirsty, but you don't want to. You want something quite nice. So yeah, I thought I'd throw that in there. As,
nice.
But Do Better. Has anyone else got something they want us to promote? Because if you're Do Better, then we'll do it. Because
do you need a job? If you need a job, people are going to be struggling next year. You know, give it. Send us your CV. We'll push you.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see? There's a few updates, quick updates we can do. Firstly, Bob Graham round winter run broken.
What? Who broke what? Legs? God, can you what? Like,
this is something I know James Appleton was always eyeing up as something he wanted to do. This is almost at CFTB levels of bad timing. So it was unsupported winter Bob Graham rounds, and it was broken by Paul Wilson, fastest time of 22 hours 54 minutes. I mean, that makes you think, because that's what, 10 hours down on the actual record. God, it's got to make a big difference, right?
Yeah.
But then within 24 hours, running in the opposite direction, James Gibson ran 21:12.
What?
Yeah. I don't know if they knew the other guy was doing it.
What?
Unsupported. Yeah. And actually, no, that is a big clarification. Unsupported Killians and Jacks. So if you've not listened to, is it Jack or Jake? It's embarrassing. Jake, yeah. Jake. We interviewed Jake about 5 weeks ago about smashing Killian's record, but those were all supported. They had teams of runners. These were individual. But yeah, that's going to be pretty brutal, right? You finish it, you get the record.
It's Jack.
Yeah. It's gone. Yeah. Well, so congratulations, firstly. Paul, we would have interviewed you, but no, we would have interviewed James now.
Yeah, the invite was about to go out. Oh, wait a minute. An hour later.
And actually, I'm not too fussed about interviewing people like Bob Graham anymore, but I think a winter one would be quite interesting.
I think, because, you're like, what is the difference? What is the difference doing it in winter? Like, is it just a case of it being treacherous? I mean, it's just really hard to... I mean, it's difficult to imagine Bob Graham a normal person, but you can get out, running on the fells, on rounds and stuff like that. You can get kind of a feeling for it. Doing it in the winter though,
and unsupported,
though, that is like what is the difference in the challenge there? Is it purely physical, or is it more? I mean, fucking hell, it sounds awful.
Actually, we've got one space left at the run show. I'm going to invite them down. That'd be good. That'd be a good talk, wouldn't it?
What,
Bob Graham Winter?
Good if they both come and they start well.
First guy walks on stage and then we clap on.
Whoever gets first on stage gets to stay. The other one just gets disinvited. So you've got to get there first. But what I would love is they both got, but then talked up how difficult it was from their perspective. Like they say, oh yeah, obviously, the route that I take is the hardest, the up route, the hardest route, and then the other one's like, no. There's a reason you did it, an hour quicker.
And did the second runner know the time? Did they get an update to say this is the new time to beat?
Yeah.
Now, some more news. Seb Coe has confirmed that they plan to have a new World Athletic event in 2026, which is quite interesting. Actually, quite a big change for global athletics. So you've got you've got the Olympics.
Yeah.
You then have the World Championships every other year. So that's 3 out of 4 years. So he's suggesting on the 4th year, which is the same as the Euro and the Commonwealth champs, that they have another global championship of sorts. I don't know what it'll be called, but the idea is that it just allows athletes to have more earning opportunities.
Right.
Which does seem to make sense.
What would that do? Would that mean that people would have to make a decision about competing in the Euros against this other thing, or would they still be able to do both? Or
no,
what would the?
I think because I think they're clever enough to coordinate it. I'm sure. Maybe the Commonwealths potentially, but I'm sure even within that, because it's such a long summer that you can have 3 races.
That wouldn't make it. That wouldn't be a problem for a top athlete. That much competition over a few months.
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, if they're doing marathon champs at them, potentially yes, and that could be a factor. But then again, you're probably not going to have someone who's competing at a high level in all 3. Realistically, if you look at the European champs marathon, for example, Ninkes came second. She's not European. She's not. She would compete in the world champs, but she probably wouldn't be podiuming there. And there's not that. The Kenyans would do well in the Commonwealth, but wouldn't be Europeans. So it's only really British runners who potentially would be in all 3, because there's no other Commonwealth countries in Europe. So unless you're that's true. That's true. Now that the new king, people will be like eyeing it up, thinking, "Oh, hello, I'll have a bit of that." So I thought that's quite interesting, and actually, I think quite sensible, because as we know from speaking to Francesco Pupi, when they kept on shifting the world trail champs, it was an issue for some athletes, because that's their opportunity to get bonuses from sponsors, to get new sponsors, but also to compete and win prize money and to grow their following. These are opportunities where there's numerous untold ways that it benefits athletes who do well. So I think that's quite good.
Well, if that's if that's helping them increase earnings, I suppose it's good for sponsors as well. If sponsors like it, athletes can earn more.
Yeah. Now, do you want an update on Kenyan doping?
It's funny that you connected those two things.
And this is just a short one, actually. Just an article I saw that it had something quite interesting in it, just the amount spent. So 3 new people have been done for doping in Kenya. One was a sprinter, one was a marathon runner. Interestingly, different drugs, one for steroids, one for EPO. It was the Porto Marathon winner. But the I've only just found out, it was in this article, it says that, so last month, that Kenya avoided a sanction by governing body despite having 55 athletes currently serving suspensions after committing, how much do you think they'd have to commit over the next 5 years to combat doping?
How much they have to commit? What, money-wise?
Yeah, as a body, as a country.
I don't know, 10 million a year.
It's $25 million, which is, it's a considerable.
That is, not in substantial amount to have to.
Yeah, I mean, $5 million for a poor country. Granted, the prize money that their athletes win is a lot, but that doesn't necessarily, always filter.
They're not going to get that back in income tax, are they?
Yeah. So that, I thought that was quite interesting, that is seen as being the amount needed, and that's going to be fascinating to see whether that does indeed stamp it out. But also, the Kenyan sports minister has announced that they intend to criminalize doping in athletics.
Oh, okay.
So, but that really shows that this is quite, I think, quite a good result. I mean, it shows that they're starting to get teeth and they're starting to use them.
Yeah.
Because, and this was that's quite a turnaround. Where
it's a massive contrast, isn't it, with what happens when other nations are found doping, or they have this, they're recognize that actually they have a reputation for it. Kenya really does have its reputation tied on a specific sport, a specific thing. And so the sullying of that through doping is a massive thing. It's a massive thing in terms of what it means to the country, in terms of for morale, for image, for everything else. And so it shows that it's important to them. So that's and it's like you said, it's decisive.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, if it is shown that criminalizing and those kind of incentives massively change what happens in Kenya, then it might be we see this happening a lot earlier in countries like Ethiopia, your Russias, China.
Russia.
There's a lot of.
It's criminalized if you don't, isn't it? I mean, you're more likely to get prosecuted if you refuse it. That's the issue, de facto.
Yeah, I mean that is the issue, right? Or their lords. But it's by starting to put down those markers, you then can start to actually then say to countries and use examples and say, you're not enforcing this, you're out.
Yeah, and also, it's recognizing that it is like performance enhancing drugs is like drugs on the street, in the sense that there's people who are the users, who are often the victims of this, but it's the people who are in charge, who are administering it, who are supplying it, who are they're the ones that tend to be guilty.
And in systematic.
Exactly. Yeah. The systematic element is because that's gone on without visibility, and so by criminalizing it, it's
you're
not
protecting the athlete.
Yeah, it's not exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're not necessarily punishing the athletes, although you have that ability, but you're allowing that to people to be an accessory to a crime, which is the issue, which is the thing that's really causing it.
Yeah. So hopefully this is a really, really positive move. Now, have you seen the Roundabout Runner? It's been out for a while.
No, the Roundabout Runner. What is that?
So it's I didn't talk about it the first time, but there's a guy called Tate Dobson who has been running round a roundabout. And
where?
That is a good question. It's got to be. You'd imagine someone like Milton Keynes.
I love it. Swindon. Swindon is the place.
Oh yeah, Swindon. I was thinking of
the place, the magic roundabout, isn't it? Yeah.
In fact, Milton Keynes is the place with no roundabouts, isn't it? It's all grid. It's
I think because of the roundabout, I think it wasn't wasn't Swindon twinned with Disney World for a period of time? I'm sure it was.
Because it needed something to escape.
That's it.
So his first run was 38 miles around a roundabout, 140-meter loop, 437 times.
Yeah. What?
Imagine that. And he's gone out and he's done it in the opposite direction now.
Oh, wow. I bet you got really good perspective on that as well. So his hip didn't crack or something. Why do people want to... Oh, I mean, like, doing lap things is awful as it is, but doing around a roundabout...
But, I mean, let's assume that he had no followers. And he said because he filled a table in the middle. He put himself an aid station with fruit gummies and water. And he just did it. Now, let's see what his Instagram following's like now. Because it said his Instagram following has grown massively. So this is interesting. How many followers do you think that gets you up to?
It's going to be... I don't know. It's difficult. 10,000?
So I've only clicked on it now. So this is an article from Canadian Running Magazine. It said he has gained quite the following on his Strava.
Quite the following.
He's got 198 followers. So I'm not belittling anyone with low followership.
After
total. So
total. Oh, I thought you meant that was the before number. I thought it's 198, and now it's.
So I'd suggest that's a bit misleading by the article because I wasn't. I was expecting it to be significantly more, and I feel it deserves more than that. I'm going to give them a follow. Tate, you're up to 199. You could be the 200th. Tate Dobson, do banners, give him a follow if you want to watch someone run round roundabouts. But is there a roundabout near you, Jody? You could do. Let's be realistic. A 1 mile round the roundabout.
1 mile round the roundabout. There are a couple of roundabouts, but they are really, really busy, as you'd expect them to be.
With runners, you wouldn't be able to get on.
No, there were I was just thinking about the roundabouts. There are.
Why don't you link up all your roundabouts?
Link up all the roundabouts. Let's have a look what that would look like. Just bear with me. I have been for a run. I've been for my first run. Since being hurt.
Pain-free?
It was pain-free. I mean, I was determined to go out for, when you just think I need to go out for a run. I've got to a point to go for a run, but it was when it was like still icy and snowing and everything. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do the run because, the car can barely get down the drive. But then it kind of thawed a little bit. And then, so I had to go and drop something off somewhere. And then I saw, which was an area that was relatively flat. And I thought, it doesn't look like there's any ice on there. So I'll just go for like a run on that. And I could just kind of run up and down it just to kind of get it. And it was really icy. I didn't notice it. So it was running, but it was kind of reticent running. But it was good. It was good. I feel I like you do, like you start running again and it feels like you've the same as when you've run 100 miles or something. It's just like bits hurt, that you're just like, really? Is my body just atrophied so much that it feels as though I've just done an incredibly hard workout?
But in some ways it's nice to like that feeling of like, because I did weights yesterday, and I mean, I'd say weights, it's like practically
you move the bench.
Yeah.
You're exhausted.
And and I can feel it in my legs, and it's quite a nice, but it's interesting, because part of my attempt to try and come back. I'm still hoping to do a London. That's the aim. I've spoken with my physio. We're building to it. But he gave me 2 exercises to test. One of them is just a simple squat with a weight on my chest. The other one is a single leg squat, so a split squat.
Oh yeah,
with half the weight of the normal squat. Now, I did a session of 3 times 12 of those.
Yeah.
And my injury was absolutely screaming at me. which was good in some ways because it suggested there really was a weakness there if I couldn't even do that. Now, what weights do you reckon I was doing?
10 kilos.
6 kilograms. 6 fucking.
It's, there is, if you're doing body weight the right way, you don't need any weight. If you do it with the right form and you lower yourself down slowly enough and hold it, and you can make it as difficult as you want, even without the weight. So it's not just about the weight that you're holding. It's all about your form and everything else.
But it just reminded me how useless as runners we often are at other core strength, at stability, at standing on one leg, all this stuff. And actually, it really doesn't take much to become a massively better runner just by doing some simple as exercises with a 6 kilogram weight. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's always this narrative around things like, I remember, was it Linford Christie? Like Linford Christie couldn't touch his toes or something, and people just go, well, Linford Christie can't touch his toes, so it shows you don't need to be, flexibility doesn't really mean anything. And you're like, well, he fucking trains like 5 hours a day, and he's in the peak physical. I mean, his flexibility may not be kind of super important to him because he is training for something very specific, and and also that was like back in the 80s and everything. But that doesn't mean that doesn't apply to you. You're not Linford fucking Christie. That's a very different thing. So it's
once you can do everything else he does.
Yeah, exactly. Then you can turn around and go, oh well, Linford Christie doesn't have to do it. It's like, and I think that's true of a lot of things, isn't it? You see other athletes, and because how many athletes does anyone ever go, well, so and so is super flexible? It's just not something that's. They go, oh, because all those runners we see, all the athletes, ultra runners, things like that. How many has ever gone, oh, so and so is really flexible, like as though it's a trait that's something to look up to. It's not. It never is. It never has been. Or they've got really good mobility. Like it's just not valued. It's something like it's like getting a boiler replaced. It's something that we don't want to do. But when things break down, we've got to do it. That's how it's seen as, and it should, and it shouldn't be. You go, well, I didn't used to have to do it. Yeah, because you're getting old, or your lifestyle means that you can't just get up and run and be the supple leopard that you think you are.
Or because if you keep on repeatedly strengthening some muscles and not strengthening others, eventually the mismatch becomes too big.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the things I want to do for 2023, and this will be good to hear from listeners as well, do-badders and viewers, is who haven't we interviewed? What things have we not spoken about? Because I think getting someone on to speak specifically about mobility, I think is really interesting. The difference between mobility and flexibility, problems that people have, and I've got a good idea of who to invite for that, because
that's a great idea.
I think that'd be really good, because I think people get that mixed up. Yeah, and also, there are things you can do, and and I think there's a whole area of misunderstanding around it, which if we can do anything, because I've got to say, a lot of do-badders, knocking on a bit, probably need a bit of help, bit of support. I know that we can't barely bloody talk because we're always injured, but those kind of things are much more are going to be much more important. Especially with working from home and everything, like people being in front of desks for longer, sat down for longer, not getting as much thing. But I think there's a few things. But do-badders, is there other stuff like that you have heard that you think, I've heard it on other podcasts, but you've never covered it, or I'd be interested about this thing that it's caused injuries or something like that, and we've just not gone around to cover it. Let us know.
Absolutely, and just to tease some future podcasts. So we're now booked up until the end of Feb which I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
So, I mean, if it's anything like the booking tonight, then you're gonna have a shitload of bad stuff.
Ooh, this is awkward. But in terms of the episodes we've got coming up, we've got Marion Gitz, who set the backyard ultra records. We've got Martin Yelling coming up. We spoke to Jamie Ramsey, who's run from I think Vancouver to Buenos Aires, along with hundreds of other challenges. And we're also speaking to quite a few scientists about some really interesting studies. But if there's any other guests you'd like to recommend, then message me, david@badboyrunning.com, or message directly on Instagram, and we'll go out and get them for you. If you could leave a review, it would really help us attract them, because the more reviews we have, the better our profile. And so what's the key word going to be for today? Screw the crew.
I was going to say roundabout.
Roundabout. If you could get roundabout or screw the crew into the text of the review in context, we'll read it out as a celebration of your brilliance.
And if you want to join the conversation, head over to Facebook, answer 3 questions, and we'll let you into the group. If you want us to promote your product, or you are thinking of dishing out a little bit of sponsorship, you could always come to us, Jody at badboyrunning.com. I'll accept cash, check, or postal order.
Absolutely. Just make sure you spell Jody right for check.
Yes. I mean, like, we joke about that, but that happens used to happen a lot when checks the. Yeah, it says on here. Oh, for fuck's sake. Right.
Well, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Fuck you, buddy.